Don't you cry, don't you worry. I cannot stay here any longer. The time has come to find a distant calling that only seems to get much stronger. And I know it's hard to see the one you come to lean on make his way far beyond the one, but I can't stay. I won't stop running. I'm only getting closer to getting on the ground this time. The sky is calling, the wind is at my shoulders. Won't let this chance pass me by. Remember yesterday, before the storm, before the innocence was lost. I promised I would stay forevermore, but every boy in time moves on. Your wounds will heal someday, this I know, but I am restless and so torn. Mama, I can't stay here anymore. I won't stop running.
All right, good evening, everyone, and we'll get the show recording started in just a moment. As you can see from the video description, I am joined by Sam and Trish Britton this evening. We're talking about smart meters, and every time Sam and Trish has come on, we always get off topic and we stray off into different things, and that is A-OK. But before we get into that talking, let me get the recording started, and we'll get this thing rip-roaring, all right?
Sounds good. In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, we are back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. And again, to all of those who download, watch on the live stream, or listen on the radio, thank you so much for your continued viewership and listenership. The subscriber numbers keep going up, and the downloads have skyrocketed lately. So I'm assuming that everyone likes the message, and I greatly appreciate each and every one of you, as I greatly appreciate my two guests that I have on, Sam and Trish Britton from Missouri Liberty Radio. Also, you can find them at molibertyradio.us. And on Sunday nights, you can hear them from 6 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time with Off the Cuff. Sam and Trish, good evening to you both, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Good evening.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I know we're going to talk about smart meters tonight, but, again, how we do this, we stray off topic, and that is absolutely fine because, I like to kind of do this show the way Sam and Trish does their show, It does no holds barred. We're just going to go where we go, and bing, bang, boom, we're rocking and rolling. So I guess let's just start off with smart meters, guys. If you just want to kick it off, take off with this subject, and then we'll delve into it.
Well, that'll be the main topic tonight, starting with smart meters. And the smart meter is probably one of the most insidious devices out there, in the sense that you probably have one and you may not even know it, because they're putting them in everywhere. Your electric utilities are quietly, usually you'll find that one was put on your house when you come home and you find all your digital clocks flashing because they briefly cut the power to change out the meter. And you will think it's probably just a little power outage that happened while you was gone, and then you find out that they put one of those meters in. Now, the problem with the meters are twofold. Number one, the meters constantly send data back to the power company. And, of course, you may say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, used to, they would send meter readers around to read your electric meters. They don't anymore. Now they send a microwave signal from your meter, and they usually do it through a system called mesh transmission. What mesh transmission is you have a whole mesh network of electric meters in your neighborhood, and they all work together. One meter will transmit to another meter, and another meter will transmit to another meter, and eventually all those meters all transmit their data to a central location point in the neighborhood, and then is transmitted off to the electric company. What makes it so bad is two things. Number one, as of right now, they're not encrypted, so the data can be sent plain to the electric company, which means if they can get it, somebody else can get it as well. So it's a very easy way for anybody that wants to hack into that data stream to tell if you're home or if you're not home. I mean, it makes a great deal if somebody wanted to...
Bugging device.
Yeah, somebody wanted to burglarize your house.
The Soviet Union would be proud.
Yeah, they would. And but here's where the plot thickens. The plot thickens in that what is going to happen is they are going to, and they're already doing it in Kansas City, so this is not hearsay. The power companies claim that they have been instructed by the Public Utilities Commission to do what's called time-of-day pricing. Now, the Public Utilities Commission is supposed to be working for us. Supposedly, that's what we're told. But increasingly, that seems to be not the case. So what is happening is the power companies are running with that. Kansas City is already going to a time-of-day pricing scheme. And basically what the situation is that depending upon the time of day when you use your appliances is how things are going to go as far as how much you're paying for electric rates. In fact, Kansas City is during their peak time of day pricing period, which is between 4 and 8 p.m., Kansas City customers can expect to pay 38 cents per kilowatt hour. That is way, way, way more expensive than what we were even paying here back in 2008, 2009, when we were griping about the electric rates here in the Owensville area.
With MOPIP and all that jazz.
Yeah. So the excuse is with the power companies is that, well, if you don't want to pay those high rates, then wait till later in the night to do your laundry, like 2 or 3 in the morning. Tell me who's going to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning to do laundry and various other chores that they could have done during the day. Because you got to look at it this way. You got families that are coming home from work, at least for those few that still have jobs in this economy. They'll come home. Usually they get home between 3 and 4 o'clock, if you're doing a daytime job. What's the first thing everybody wants? They want supper. So, you're cooking supper, and if you have an electric stove, it's even worse because now you're using the electric grid to power that thing. And
maybe they don't want you to work in the first place. Hello.
Well, that's coming. I mean, basically, well, we'll get into that a little bit later, what they really want you to do. But anyway, so basically where we are is we're supposed to get in this time-of-day pricing next spring. I don't know exactly what Ameren Electric has in store for us out here, but I assume it's probably going to be a very similar plan. Now, it's not to say you can't pick from different plans in these areas, but nothing like the plan that you had before they went to the time-of-day pricing. Now, there is a move to try to get these power companies to offer an unlimited plan so you don't have to put up with this, but how far it's going to go, I don't know.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean, there's no way of knowing. But here's the other issue with this whole thing, and that is I talked to this gentleman that calls in on my show every week, Mike from out in South Carolina. He's on this out there where he is. And he told me to get around it. He said he can save money on this plan, but he said what he has to do between 4 and 8 p.m. is he has to turn off his AC, turn off his refrigerator, turn off anything that consumes large amounts of power, And then he said, then he comes out better on it. But he said he has to actually turn off his refrigerator and freezer and leave them off for that period of time, then go back and turn them back on again after that period of time. And he said he can save money. Of course, my attitude is who wants to put up with that? But that's where we're going.
What happens if you forget and lose a lot of meat?
Well, that's
Hello.
it. Well, I was talking to our heating cooling guy who was over here putting in our furnace the other day, and he said the only way to work around that so you could remember is you'd almost have to put timers on all them devices just to make sure they restarted. But this is where we're going to. And what makes this even more insidious is that at the same time they're putting this in and trying to make power look artificially scarce, they're shutting down the input to the grid. The coal-fired power plants, for example, are a perfect case in point, and even some natural gas power plants. And they're trying to make this big deal that we can operate the whole grid on solar and wind, which is absolutely nonsense. There's no way. It's not stable enough. The wind doesn't blow all the time. The sun's not out all of the time. Now, we have solar on our house here, but it's supplementing our electric power. But when it's cloudy, our solar panels don't work very well. So, and this is what's going to be experienced on the grid. So, see, by tearing down the input to the grid, they can literally make power really artificially scarce, and it's all through negligence by just tearing out parts of the grid to make the grid more, what's the word I want to use, more tight so that there's no grace room to work with during peak loads. And so what's going to happen is the grid's going to become ever more fragile as they keep doing this stuff. And my prediction, now this is just my prediction, take it for what it's worth, but my prediction is that eventually we are going to move to a point in this country, if we keep going the way we're going, where we're going to be like third world countries where we'll have power for a few hours a day, and then the rest of it we may not. We may not have that much power. So the other problem, and this is a problem I'm still trying to iron out in my mind. I've been doing more research on the smart meters, and there was a period of time when putting these on your house was an extreme risk due to fire hazard. The meter's mounted on the meter cannon on the outside of your house, and if that meter takes a surge or something goes wrong in that meter, there is the potential, since the meter is all in a plastic housing, that the meter could catch fire and burn down your house. Now, what I've not been able to find out as of right now, are these fire hazards still ongoing, or have they been eliminated? I don't think they've ever been totally eliminated, but one of the key factors in causing the smart meters to catch fire was the relay switch that the power company uses to turn off your power.
Or lithium-ion battery that's in them.
Yeah, that's another area where I was going to go, but the first part of it is the contactor, the relay contactor. See, the power company, they like these because they don't have to come out of your house, turn your power off. They can do it right from their main office, and they can turn it on from their main office just like they do telephone service or anything else. The downside is that the contact relay inside the smart meters, the relay, that's the actual device that takes the data that they receive and turns it into an actual switching command. That relay has to be heavy enough to carry the load of the entire house. And so if that relay is not heavy enough to carry the load, then the relay could overheat and potentially catch the meter on fire. And the second problem with the smart meters, which is still a potential ongoing problem, is to back up the smart meter so that it doesn't lose all of its data during power outages. They have to have a backup battery. So what they have in the meter base is a lithium-ion battery. Well, we know the stories of lithium-ion batteries catching fire in things like computers and motor scooters here lately, electric cars. And by the way, there's some, if you're a person like me, and you see the boondoggle and the electric car thing. We'll get to that after a while. There's some good news on that front. We'll talk about that. So it's not all doom and gloom. There is some good news out there. But the main thing, getting back to the smart meters, is those are the two key components that can cause a potential fire. Now, what Trish and I did when we saw this smart meter thing coming a long time ago, back in 2008 and 2009.
Saw this boondoggle coming a long time ago.
Yep. So what we did was we had our meter, when we buried our power lines underground, we had our meter put out on a pedestal away from the house. So it's not even mounted on the house. It's mounted on a wooden pedestal. And the most that might happen if we had a meter fire on that thing is it might burn the pedestal, but it's not going to burn the house down. Because I knew about the smart meter fires already. I mean, this has been going on since when they originally started them back in 2007. And you know this is a boondoggle from the get-go with the smart meters by the fact that the Defense Department is one of the main players on the federal level pushing out money for the power companies to put these things in. So that should tell you everything you need to know, because if the power company can constantly get streams of data from you, if they can get the time that you're running each one of the appliances in your house, they can sell that data to anybody. Now, here's another phase of the story that makes this even more insidious, and that is that all new appliances, if you've heard the term Energy Star, which is common these days when you go out and buy appliances, and they make it sound real good, make sure that your appliance has the Energy Star seal when you buy it, and all this kind of stuff. Energy Star it just simply means that your appliance is set up, whatever it is, washer, dryer, air conditioner, refrigerator, stove, dishwasher, whatever. All of them have a little transmitter that communicates to your smart meter every time you run the device and how long you run the device. So what's happening is all the appliances in your house are communicating with the smart meter, which is then communicating with the power company, and the power company knows clear down to the second every time you turn on any appliance in the house. They'll have a record of it because that appliance will send out information regarding what it is and all that kind of stuff. So now you've got this web of surveillance in your house, and it's all communicating with the smart meters, and the smart meters communicating with the power company and that kind of thing. And so this is the new power grid that they're selling us. They're trying to sell us on, and most people don't even have a clue that it exists. So, any comments so far, John?
Well, when you're talking about the Defense Department, to me, a couple of things stick out here. A, yes, of course, your government wants to control you and your electric usage and all that. So that's one thing. The other thing is that this is ripe for a false flag, where because the Defense Department is funding this, let's say they want to make it seem like we're being attacked. So they just hit the grid. And they shut off power to a certain part of the country because they're in cahoots with this whole smart meter technology. Not only are we, ripe for a false flag, but if there was another country that wanted to hack into the power grid system and just start randomly shutting power off in places, you can't tell me that thing's really secure. I have no faith in the power companies or the federal government to make sure that these systems are highly secured and that someone won't get in and really, just wreck things, just really tear up Jake. So, there's a couple of just my thoughts right off the bat with this. It's, if anybody else sees this as anything other than control, you are delusional. That is plain and simple. It is about controlling you, and what better way to control somebody than we think you're using too much power, so click, you're off for a few hours. Or You get into what we've been going through, okay? 9/11, the Patriot Act, COVID, the censorship. Who's to say that in the future you're saying things the government doesn't like? Click, off goes your power. It just leaves us open for attacks from so many different angles.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
Yeah, I mean, look at it this way, guys. Let's suppose you are a person who needs cannabis for some reason. You have a growing operation going in your house. They'll know about it the minute you do it.
Yeah, and
That's another problem.
And then you got the feds. Oh, wait, looks like he's got, and they'll just, because maybe you don't have your license the way the state wants you to have a license. Well, now you got another problem.
What
Yeah.
a way to continue with the drug war.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, it's not a war on drugs. It's a war to give you drugs.
War on people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, with Amendment 3, if something was put into the state constitution that doesn't put constraints on the government, it puts constraints on the people, and the exact opposite reason why you have a constitution in the first place. But I won't go down that road any farther because that's not what we're talking about right now. Damn it! But anyway,
who knows where it's over with? We could segue just about anywhere. But
well, yeah.
Here's another good one for you. Now, California's mandated this. Now, this is why. Now, this kind of segues, but it still ties in. Remember, I made a comment regarding the electric cars earlier, and we were talking about that. There's good news. Let's get the good news out of the way first. The good news is that the car companies are now having to go back and rethink all this push toward electric vehicles because they're just not selling. Nobody wants them. People are finally starting to wake up and understand that it's not as convenient as driving a gas-powered car, which when I first heard about it, I mean, here's the crazy thing about it. I'm thinking, what is taking people so long to figure this out? I'm a blind guy. I don't even drive. And I knew in my own mind right there, if I had a choice between fueling up a car in 3 to 5 minutes or sitting there and waiting for a half hour to an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or however long.
Depending on however many people are ahead of you.
Yeah.
It could be an all-day wait for you.
Yeah, there's 6 cars ahead of you. And so I would choose the gas-powered car in an instant because, and that's besides all the other problems with them. I mean, they don't handle hot weather well. They don't handle cold weather well. But let's get into what California is mandating. California is mandating that any EV, we'll just use EV. EV stands for electric vehicle. Any EV manufactured has to have a two-way power system. Bidirectional power system. That means that not only can power be put into the car, but power can be transferred out of the car. And what California's logic is in this thing is that, well, if your car is parked there charging and we decide we need some extra power, we can just tap your car. So you plug your car in, right? You think you're going to charge your car because you got to go to work in the morning, and so you plug your car in and it's plugged in. You go out there the next day, you get in it, and your battery is only about 0.25% of a charge, and you're thinking, well, where in the hell did all my power go? Oh, never mind. The power company just tapped it last night because they felt like they needed it. And so you really never charged your car at all. So this is what California is moving to. And most people, because most people don't pay any attention to all this stuff when it comes down the pike, they're not going to know. There's a lot of brain dead people out there, probably more in that state and probably just about anywhere. And so they're going to get these things. They're going to hook them all up and they think, well, I'm saving the environment. Yes, I feel good about myself because I'm saving the environment.
You shouldn't.
And so they're going to get these cars and they're going to get a harsh lesson. Not only does it take forever to charge them, but if the power company decides they want to tap your battery, because after all, we destroyed so much of the grid that we can't supply power without your car out there once in a while, so we're going to tap it. And we're going to use it for whatever we want to use it for. And so now you've got a situation where you never know from one day to the next if your car is ever going to be charged. So that's the new scheme they got going on in California. So there you go.
Yeah,
There
well,
goes work and there goes your driving.
I mean, we always talk about Australia being a prison colony, right? I mean, that was its origin. It was a prison colony. It was a big prison island. California is becoming a prison state.
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
York is becoming a prison state. Illinois is becoming a prison state. Washington, Oregon. Instead of, it's like they're building their own private prison systems in these states. And, I mean, now during COVID, a lot of people fled and said, we don't need this. This is ridiculous. I need to go somewhere where I can have more freedom. But a lot of people chose to stay. And they're literally just building a prison around these people, and a lot of them don't recognize that there's a prison being basically built up around them. And then, of course, the inmates are running the asylum. So you have the insane people in the California state government that, are nuttier than squirrel turds, and they're running the whole show. And it's mind-boggling to me how people don't, like what Sam was just talking about here. Oh, yeah, not only can you put charge to the battery, we can take it back away. I'm sorry. If you think that's a good idea, well, I've lost all hope for you. The other thing about the meters, my question is, because technically the meter doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the power company. So if the meter would start your house on fire, can you sue the power company for starting that fire and the damages?
There's some lawsuits. There's some lawsuits already going on with that. There was a story we covered about 4 or 5 years ago now on the Cuff Show about a lady in Pennsylvania who had a problem with a meter that was malfunctioning, and she had 3 or 4 different fires at different times in her house. And not only did the power company not cover anything, and not were they liable because the politicians saw to it that the power company wasn't liable, her insurance would not cover the insurance either. And so she was just totally screwed. So you're going to see some of the same stuff that happened with the pharmaceutical industry doing the same thing with the power companies, I think, when all this is over. Because, in other words, as long as you kiss the butt of the state, we'll protect you from all liability. I think you're going to see this start to show up in more and more industry. And this is why I think that sooner or later all this stuff is going to come to some sort of a head. I don't know exactly how or whatever, but I can tell you on a large scale basis, something's going to happen. I don't know how many more people are going to have to die before this is all finally enough is enough. And see, here's the thing that we always have to remember. Tyrants cannot be tyrants without the assistance of other tyrants. In other words, it doesn't matter if it's the Biden administration or who. It doesn't matter who's in office. And it doesn't matter what country.
In other words, you're saying you need a network of tyrants.
You need a network of minions willing to carry out the orders of the tyrant for the tyrant to do his dirty business.
Be able to do what he can do.
Yeah, and so this is part of the reason that we're in the mess that we're in, because there's far too many people out there who are willing to sell their souls and say, yeah, I'll do it for a buck, or whatever. I'm using a buck as just a common number. But, I mean, in other words, pay to play. In other words, they get the money and they get to play, and the government pays them, so they'll do their dirty work for them. And see, this is how our government does its dirty work. They do it through corporations, and so it doesn't matter if it's the power companies. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's big tech or whoever or whatever. They can do their dirty work because there's other minions out there willing to help them do it, and this is an age-old problem. If you want evidence of how that all worked out over in Romania, remember that tyrant over there?
Oh,
what was his name?
Ceausescu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got his way with the population over there until finally his minions had enough. And they all turned on him. And you notice these very people that put their populations through hell turn into complete cowards when their own minions start to turn on them. Adolf Hitler, toward the latter reign of his day in Nazi Germany, one of the first things he did before his reign was through was to kill off all of his brown shirts because they knew too much. Now, never mind. If you study a little bit closer, you'll find that after that was all over with, we're led to believe the United States had to come in there and help save the day. No, we brought the Nazi doctors over here so they could do their stuff here in the United States. It's called Operation Paperclip. And so, our government was just heavily involved in all this experimentation on people and everything else as the German government at that time was doing. And this continues to be the problem. The problem is there's far too many people who are willing to sell their soul. This is why and I don't know, I'm not saying I have the answer on how to get this done, but somehow we have to become a population that will not sell our soul at any cost, because this is how, when people sell their soul and they align themselves with the tyrants of the world, this is how we wind up in the mess that we're in. And now, the main thing I want to point out in the good news department is that on the electric car front, we were just talking about the free market is winning out, and that's a good thing. The free market usually will come away with doing things way more sensible than government. Government just willing to do whatever they can get kickbacks for. And this is why so much of their stuff is failing. Not only is that failing, but all the wind farms they want to put both offshore and across the country, a lot of that's failing because nobody ever thought about, well, how are we going to get the power lines out to the offshore wind farms to make them run and to serve electricity to where we want it to go? Nobody ever thought about that. But I can guarantee you, whoever put those wind farms together, while the companies may go bankrupt, the CEOs are going to run off making a killing off of it. And so this is the bad part of all this, is the fact that these things will keep happening because government will come up with these wide-eyed schemes, and then their minions, their CEO minions of these companies that get involved in these things, these front groups, will they'll go bankrupt trying to do the impossible, and then after that it doesn't matter, because as long as the CEO of the company gets his money, all the people that work for the company be damned. And and this looks like this is where this is going with the auto companies. Now, the only problem with the auto companies, as you were talking about, John, on your show here a while back, and as we were talking about here recently, and that is the pay increases, the unrealistic pay increases they're going to get, which is going to inflate the price of a gas-powered car. So what my concern is, are we going to have gas-powered cars at the price that electric cars would have been, even if they fail?
I'll tell you this. So what I've been trying to, I get, because I subscribe to the UAW channel on YouTube. So anytime there's a tentative agreement with a car company, I get a video. I get a notification on YouTube, and I go through and I have to sit there and listen to their propaganda until they finally get to the numbers. What I'm hearing is a lot of companies, a lot of these people are going to be at $40 an hour, and having a conversation last week over at my wife's grandmother's house, and we were talking about the strike and everything. And, I said, here's my problem, guys. Because, my wife's grandfather was a union bricklayer. I mean, again, I'm in a union. But I told him, I said, listen, the UAW is coming out with their numbers. And I said, they're leaving vital information out. When they throw out these numbers, they're leaving the other side of the equation out. And I said, I'm just the type of person, I want all the information first before I make up my mind. I want all the information on what's going on before I form an opinion. And so, yeah, if everybody's making $40 an hour, there's no way as a owner of a big car manufacturing, company like that I'm going to eat that cost. You're talking some of these people getting $10 to $15 an hour increase over a period of 4 years. So within 4 years, gasoline cars are going to be super stupidly expensive. And the same people who complain they can't afford to buy a new car right now will be in 4 years not able to afford a brand new car. And when that union president said, we're not wrecking the economy, we're wrecking their economy, as they were talking about the presidents and the board members of these automakers, and I'm thinking, well, there you go, saying stupid stuff again, because their economy is part of the economy, so you are, in fact, wrecking the economy, you blankety blank 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 blank. But, and so these people...
Well, look at it this way, John. Stupid people win stupid prizes.
That's true. That's very true. And also, you can't fix stupid, but you can tie it to a chair with duct tape and hit it with a shovel. Somebody told me that. I haven't proven that, but I'm sure they're right.
I don't think so. I don't think you can fix stupid.
No, you can't. But you can tie it to a chair and hit it with a shovel. It may not. It may not.
Maybe
fix
we should
it.
try that. We've been fixing it. We've been trying to fix it for years with all the work we've been doing, and it still keeps showing up.
Yeah, it may not fix it, but you might get a little glee out of hitting it with a shovel. I want to go back to what you were saying a minute ago, Sam. When you were talking about the tyrants and their minions, and you're not wrong. But I guess the main question I have, and I know you're going to agree with me, but I want to put this point out there. At some point, as we look at society and we look at the world around us, how much fault do we put at government's feet and corporations' feet compared to people who are willfully ignorant or choose to ignore the truth and go on because it's inconvenient to admit to themselves they've been lied to, and it's time to actually stop being the silent majority and sticking up for what's right. And something that I know I've said this before, listening to part of the Problem podcast today, they brought up something about, and I don't want to get too far off track, but this kind of ties in to what I was saying. When Cuomo was going lockdown crazy in New York, there were liberal and so-called conservative news outlets really praising Cuomo. We have a lot of so-called conservative voices out there.
Conservative?
Right. Conservative voices out there.
Conservatives, yeah.
They're confidence men, every damn last one of them.
And
they're conservatives.
And they are out there talking smack, and it's just at the point where it's like, people, you've got to stop ignoring some of the things these people say. They're showing you who they are. Oh, sure, you might agree on some things, but during COVID, they were eerily silent the majority of the time about lockdowns and shutdowns and vaccine mandates and all these things. They're showing you exactly who they are. Stop ignoring that. We have some very good conservative voices out there. But as an example, or a few examples, first you have Mark Levin, who will trash the 10th Amendment Center. I remember when Mitt Romney was running for president, Dana Lash, one of these big conservative voices, was saying that, well, yeah, I know Romney's not the best, but we just need the win. But I remember...
Oh, please.
I know. And I remember on my very first show, Re-Education Radio, playing the clips and talking about the questions asked of Obama and Romney. Same questions, almost identical answers. So a
Yeah.
Romney win would have done us no good because it would have been the same as Obama being in the White House. People have got to stop ignoring things that make them uncomfortable when their favorite little talking heads say something that's blatantly goes against your natural rights, goes against anything somewhat moral. Man, you better turn your compass due north again. And you better start paying attention because these people are literally kowtowing and bowing the knee to a political party, and their principles are just put away. They're compromising their principles because the guy with the R or the D behind their name might win. And so we have to put our principles aside and beg at the altar of one of these two parties, which at the end of the day, they're all acting like children and they all act the same. And until that ends, we have corporations and governments and these public-private partnerships, and we have a whole lot of, Joe Blow citizens out there willing to ignore the plain truth and go along with it because, oh my God, they might get a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, here's something else to think about, too, and that is the fact that these guys, these big kahunas that are on large conglomerate corporate radio stations, they wouldn't be there if they didn't push the talking points. See, there's quote-unquote liberal talking points, and I hate even using that term. Maybe I should use progressive, although there's nothing progressive about
Regressive.
I refer to it as regressive because you're going backward instead of forward. But you've got that side, and then you've got the quote-unquote conservative side, as Trish and I were talking about, Levin and so on and so forth. We'll use
Hannity and all those other idiots.
Yeah. Those people wouldn't be where they are if they didn't push the talking points.
Of the conservative wing.
See, there's what I call the loyal right and the loyal left. And then you've got all of us out here, like myself, running Missouri Liberty Radio, you doing the Missouri Liberty Report, and then, of course, Patrick doing his live stream, and others like us in different parts of the country who we may not be on radio, but this is where the real truth is. The real truth is getting out here and doing this, knowing you're not going to make any money at it. Because, see, that's the other thing, too. You got to remember, all these people that are on these major networks, they get paid handsomely for what they're doing. I know Rush Limbaugh was being paid into the millions of dollars for what he was doing. I mean, man, when he died, he had a mansion down there in Florida that wouldn't quit. And
he had to die a guilty man.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
He died a guilty man. I'm sorry. But he let things go, too.
Well, sure he did.
He let things go, and he wouldn't tell the truth about it if it hit him in the ass.
Well, he made a statement on his broadcast before he died, several months before he died. He made the statement. He said, if I told you some of the stuff that I really know, he said, I'd be run out of the studio in a heartbeat. And that should tell you everything you need to know. Now, there's some of us out there, I'm the kind of person, I'll keep doing this. I don't care if I'm flat broke. I'll still keep doing it until I can't breathe anymore for some reason. But I'll still keep trying to get the truth out there because that's my dedicated mission. And I know there's many others like us out here still trying to do the same thing. We don't make any money at it. But because we're not making any money at it, it keeps us more honest. We're not afraid to go where we need to go to get the truth. Where if you're being paid by tons of advertisers, then you're not going to be as apt to rock that boat. Now, Trish and I found out what can happen even on a local basis when we were up in Kansas City. I've told this story several times, but I'll tell it for the benefit of your listeners tonight, John, and your viewers that are watching on the stream. Trish and I, when we were up in Kansas City, landed a radio slot on a Christian radio station, and I use that term loosely, KEXS out of Excelsior Springs. Now, this is long before the advent of Missouri Liberty Radio and all that kind of stuff. So what happened was we got on there, and We used to do our show started out an hour long, and then it went into 2 hours long.
A half hour long.
Was it a half hour when we first
Yes.
started? Half hour. That's
half
what it was.
hour to 1 hour, yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Half hour to 1 hour. It was started out half hour, and then eventually it was extended into 1 hour.
Right.
And back then it was called the Information Corner. Now, we did eventually take that show to the internet, and that's a whole nother story as to how the Information Corner became off the cuff. But we'll go back to what the original story here is it started, because this proves my point. We were coming out of a break, and during the break on the one particular show. Now, keep in mind when this happened, we were wined and dined by the radio station the week before. They took us out to dinner, welcome us on the air and all this kind of stuff. Well, next week we're on the air, and there was a set of commercials that ran during the commercial break for some real estate brokers.
And it set us off.
And after that commercial break, we came back out of that break, and I made the statement when they opened the show back up to me. I made the statement, I said, by the way, I said, if you think you own your home, I said, think again. I said, see what happens if you don't pay the yearly rent.
The taxes.
Yeah, meaning the real estate taxes. And I made the comment then, I said, you don't own your home. I said, you just think you do. I said, they're just selling you.
And the tax collector will tell you that you're buying the privilege to live in it.
Yeah.
That's what that woman said down there at Herman.
Absolutely right. And, but anyway.
She's a snake in the grass if ever was one.
Yeah. But anyway, what happened was I made the statement in addition to that. I said, real estate agents are not selling you the house. They're selling you the right to live in the house. And after that show was over, we were told that was our last show. So this is why I hate having advertisers, because when you have advertisers, and particularly if you're working in somebody else's radio station and you have advertisers, that owner, he doesn't want to lose money from them advertisers, so he'd just soon run you off as to look at you as opposed to losing money. Well, with what we're doing here, none of us have any advertisers, so advertisers certainly can't pull the plug on something that they're not sponsoring. And so this is why I will not have sponsors, because I've been down this road, Trish, and I've been down this road. We know what it's like to go down that road.
We've been at this gig for a long time, and we know what it's like to do the different things in the gig.
Yeah. So that was a lesson to me that I'll never forget. And from then on, I said I'll just, freelance the show myself, and wherever it goes is wherever it goes. And we've been doing, well, it started out as the Information Corner, even online, and then eventually somebody hacked our domain. The webmaster we had at the time did not have that domain locked down. And so our domain was being used to spam emails. And if you want to lose your reputation real quick, have that going on. All kinds of emails coming from, quote unquote, the Information Corner, and they weren't us. And of course, then you get people, mad because they're getting bombarded with emails. So we had to eventually abandon that whole brand and eventually regroup. And that's when we started with Missouri Liberty Radio. Then we just piggybacked off the cuff, off the Missouri Liberty Radio brand. And then we locked that domain down so that the chances of people hacking into it and causing problems with it are a lot less doing it that way. So lesson learned, if you have a domain for a website, make sure it's locked down. Go into your cPanel or whatever it is where you manage your website. Make sure all that information is locked down so people can't get in there and do screwy stuff. It doesn't mean that they still may not be able to, but you're making it harder is what you're doing. So anyway, that's a brief history as to how we wound up where we are here. And I've swore up and down I'd never go to work for a regular mainstream radio market for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally understand that, because you can be censored, I guess you'd say.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty much what it is. You can be censored.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said. That's the sad part about just the media in general. I mean, you got a few out there. Tucker Carlson's done a lot of good reports. Now, I don't agree with him on everything, but at least he's had the intestinal fortitude to talk about a lot of things that a lot of other people wouldn't. Even people on his own on the network that he was on wouldn't dare. And then, of course, he saw how good of friends they were. They all turned his back. They all turned their back on him when they decided to squash him because supposedly of the Jan 6 stuff or whatever, and the voting machine thing and all this other stuff. And Tucker's not afraid. I'll tell you somebody else who now I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but there are times that I will watch it, and that's Russell Brand has been doing a lot of good stuff lately on his Rumble and YouTube channel. Russell's been kind of made fun of because Russell had a checkered background, a lot of drug abuse problems and some other things, but he seems to have cleaned himself up, and boy, he's really coming out and tearing holes and subjects that I don't think, a few years ago he would have really touched. And it was great to hear him on Bill Maher's program here a while back, because what he did was he beat up on both sides.
Yeah.
And I know he used to be a lot more liberal, and now I think that's changed. He's really opened his eyes and saw that both sides are guilty of either the same crimes or different crimes. And one of the great things is he said, when governments declare a crisis and the price goes up, or energy companies will declare a price or a crisis and the prices skyrocket. Oh, there's an oil crisis, and then the prices go up, and
I say everything that touch turns to crap. But
yeah. But it's it's nice to see some of these people coming around, and that have a lot, like millions and millions of views, that are coming out and putting this information out now. So the rest of us don't look. We're not I don't really give a crap, but
it's nice to feel vindicated, John.
Yeah, it is, and it's like, oh, well, you're a kook, and like, okay, well, here's a guy over here with like 4 million downloads or 4 million views. Is he also a kook? Like, so he and I are in the same boat. The guy with 4 million downloads and me with like a couple hundred. We're in the same boat. Okay, I'll gladly be in that dude's boat, because yours is full of holes and it's leaking water, and you don't even have buckets to dip it out of. Your guy's probably got straws trying to drink the water out.
See, what I think is going on with Russell Brand is I think he just feels like he's got nothing to lose anymore.
And he's being accused of stuff now, and it's just awful funny that now that he's come out and said the things that he said, now there's supposedly all this sexual impropriety, and he's like, yeah, back in the day, I was kind of a jerk, and he's like, that's not me anymore. But suddenly all these accusations have come out since he's really been blasting the info out, and that's just too coincidental for me.
Yeah. They will see. That's what they like to do. They like to pull that stuff out of the woodwork. Now, here's an interesting one. Remember, back during the COVID debacle, the censorship was coming from the left. Now, over the Israeli debacle, the censorship is coming from the right, because you got all the people over there wanting anybody that's against Israel censored. So neither side has any credibility left with me.
Room to talk.
Yeah, because the right was griping and complaining about being censored during COVID. Now it's the right wanting to censor anybody that they claim is on the left or whatever, and I get a kick out of it, because now I'm a guy, I'm not taking sides in this stuff other than the fact that I just go wherever the road leads me on this subject, and you have to dig further than what's on the surface with this. Ron Paul early on got on the subject, and I need to pull that clip down, maybe use it on my show, but you might be able to find it, John, online. That's where he was talking about how, contrary to what most people believe, that Israel was the one that created Hamas.
Yeah.
And it's out there. It's still online if you can look for it and find it. So even Ron Paul has come out and talked about that. But yet we're supposed to believe that, that Hamas was created by the Palestinians and all this kind of stuff. Well, see, this is not uncommon where we go in and create, different countries go in and create boogeymen, then the boogeymen turn on them. That's what happened with us when it came to Al-Qaeda. That's why Al-Qaeda has the nickname Al-Qaeda, because the CIA was instrumental in creating Al-Qaeda. But see, it's a boogeyman that we can all be deathly scared of, and scared of. So the media throws Al-Qaeda around, and we're supposed to, ooh, I'm scared, because of Al-Qaeda. They might be hiding. Al-Qaeda might be hiding under your bed.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of this Halloween thing, like, ooh.
Yeah.
Don't look now, but there's an Al-Qaeda boogeyman hiding underneath your mattress, and he might come out and he might grab you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And so they do this all the time, and apparently that's the case with Israel and Hamas. And yet we're supposed to believe that Hamas is just this thing, when in reality Hamas is bad to both sides. And both governments. The Israeli government, the thing I keep trying to tell people about the Israeli government, so see, I beat up on the right too, every bit as much as I beat up on the left. What the right needs to understand is that the Israeli government that's not the Israel as was recorded in Scripture. That is a state created by the United Nations with a secular government. If you want any evidence of that, if a Christian goes over there and tries to preach the gospel in that country, he will be arrested. So,
could we say that they have a pseudo-Israelism?
Well, they do. They have this pie in the sky ideology regarding Israel, which is not really true, because most of the churches, about 80% of the churches, teach it. And so this is that Zionism stuff that the churches all teach. And so ultimately, this is why we have so many people in the realm of Christianity. Now, a preacher we carry on our station by the name of Charlie Stewart, he refers to it as churchianity, because that's really what it is. But and he's right. But the problem you have here with all this is that they believe. And this is why this doctrine needs to be knocked down at all costs, because they truly believe that by widening the Israeli conflict over in the Middle East, that they are helping God's timetable for Christ's return. So he will return faster. That is the honest-to-God truth of what these people believe. And they're very dangerous, because these are the ones that will do anything. And they have their politician minions. I don't know if you guys saw the story that broke and that heard the actualities regarding this new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Hey, Sam.
Yeah.
Hey, can you hold that thought? I've got a clip real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you in the KEYK audience, thanks so much for joining me. Remember, you can go find Missouri Liberty Report Plus to hear more about what we're talking about. Next week, I will be joined by Paul Berry, who is running for lieutenant governor here in Missouri, and I think you're really going to like what this guy has to say. So we'll see you all next week right here on the Missouri Liberty Report. Thank you so much. All right, continuing on. And just so you know, Sam, I've got the YouTube clip up with Ron Paul talking about this, so we can cue
Go ahead and play it.
Go ahead.
Right,
I'm going to get a drink of water.
Okay. Let's see here. Let me make sure. The name of the clip is Ron Paul, Israel created Hamas. Let's see what we get here.
I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Dr. Paul. The gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Gentlelady for yielding, and I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this resolution, not because I am taking sides and picking who the bad guys are and who the good guys are, but I'm looking at this more from the angle of being a United States citizen, an American, and I think resolutions like this really do us great harm. In many ways, what's happening in the Middle East, and in particular with Gaza right now, we have some moral responsibility for both sides in a way, because we provide help and funding for both Arab nations and Israel. And so we definitely have a moral responsibility, and especially now today, the weapons being used to kill so many Palestinians are American weapons, and American funds essentially are being used for this. But there's a political liability which I think is something that we fail to look at, because too often there's so much blowback from our intervention in areas that we shouldn't be involved in. You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel, because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first, indirectly and directly through Israel, help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. During the 80s, you know, we were allied with Osama bin Laden, and we were contending with the Soviets. It was at that time our CIA thought it was good if we radicalized the Muslim world. So we financed the madrasa schools to radicalize the Muslims in order to compete with the Soviets. There's too much blowback. There's a lot of reasons why we should oppose this resolution. It is not in the interest of the United States. It's not in the interest of Israel either.
And there's Ron Paul just tearing the roof off the joint, which I
That's
always enjoyed listening to Ron Paul, especially on his foreign policy.
Yep, he knows foreign policy like the back of his hand, and he's exactly right. Not only do we, along with these, you know, in this case, Israel, in the case of Hamas, not only do we create these boogeymen, but once we create them, then we create them because, see, you got to have a way to keep that war machine going. So there always has to be a boogeyman, because remember, it's called the military-industrial complex. And so the industry needs a constant stream of business. So you create the boogeymen and feed the public the fact that we have these boogeymen out there. If it isn't Hamas, it's Al-Qaeda. If it isn't Al-Qaeda, it's Osama bin Laden and all this kind of stuff. There's always a boogeyman. And then after the boogeyman's created, then we're supposed to send the sons and daughters over there to knock that boogeyman down. And I simply state that you'll know a war is legitimate when all the politicians send their kids over there too.
Yeah, absolutely. They love a good war because they, you know, they're stockholders, shareholders, and all these, you know, the Raytheons and the Boeings and all these companies. But good Lord, I don't want my kids going over there, but you can send your kids over there and it'll be just fine. You know, even Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of this in a speech where he said, you know, poor whites and Negroes are being basically, you know, to paraphrase, they're the ones being sent off to these wars. And I think it's probably another reason why, you know, MLK got assassinated, because of the things he's said about the government. It wasn't all about, getting these people to, you know, pull themselves up by their bootstraps and become independent. He also spoke about the Vietnam War and other things, and he didn't have very nice things to say about our government and how they treated the poor by shipping them off to these war-torn countries and letting them get blown to bits or being killed, used as as the Black Sabbath song says, used like pawns in chess.
Yeah.
And
or getting shell-shocked and never be right again.
Yeah. I think even Malcolm X spoke on this a little bit too. But yeah, it's, you know, even this is what's funny about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Because Malcolm X was on a TV show, he's being interviewed, and he talked about liberals being the biggest enemy. And not classical liberals, but these new so-called liberals.
Commie libs.
Yeah.
Commie libs.
Malcolm X spoke at length about how dangerous liberals are, how they were a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think that's why these guys ended up getting, knocked off, because it wasn't, oh, well, we don't like Negroes and we don't want them getting their way. It was, hey, these guys are talking crap on us. They're talking smack on us government boys. We don't need the minorities who we used as tools all this time to wise up and realize they don't need us. I think that was the real danger. Not that they could pull themselves up by their bootstraps and straighten up their communities. It's, oh my goodness, we don't have a whole host of people to think they need us for everything in our lives. We can't have that happening. These people have to be a new type of slave, a slave to a government. Instead of a slave to a plantation owner, now they're going to be slaves to the government. Well, we all are, but they didn't want the minorities waking up and saying, hey, we don't need government either. We can do just like everybody else and build our own thing without intervention and regulation and all these other, with all these strings attached. We can do this ourselves, and they can't have that, man. You can't have people understand that they don't need government.
No, you sure can. And see, this stuff even creeps its way. This is why I was talking about earlier about the churches. Who runs the seminaries where most of these in the Bible colleges? It's the state. It's the government. They get their 501c3. And so a lot of this stuff winds up percolating down through the colleges. And here's the thing you got to understand. I don't care what faith you are. I don't care if you're an atheist. This ideology that most people have in the churches will affect you. This is why I covered it. I've been beating this so hard on my radio show here lately. I don't mean to try to, I'm not trying to burn people out with this subject. But when
it's
you
a
have
big subject.
But it is a very big subject, because when you have people in the churches with the weight of the government behind them, and the church is wagging the dog in this case, because that's what they're doing. I mean, they take their version of eschatology, scriptural, their Bible prophecies and all this kind of stuff.
It'll affect you.
When they use the government to make those prophecies a reality,
like the war in Israel,
that puts all of us in danger. Whether you are a believer or not does not matter in this case. It still puts you in danger, because whatever they, what the old saying goes, whatever you reap, you sow. And if this is what they choose to do, and they can get the government to wag the dog for them, then guess what? If blowback becomes a problem because of this stuff, then your family is in danger. David Knight, the other day, who we air on our radio station, David Knight, he's probably one of my favorite out of the whole lineup that we have. He had somebody contact him and was getting after him because he was speaking out against what the church-ins believe about Israel. And David got on a roll. He almost let some words go on the air that he shouldn't let go. He said, I don't care. He said, you go and do whatever you're going to do. But he said, I'm not going to sit here and stay silent and allow the possibility for my family to be blown apart while you're out there pushing all this stuff. And he almost let a few words slip. I mean, he was PO'd. But he had a right to be, because, I mean, that's a lot of power for people to have artificially. And these are the very same people that gripe about the left. And I am no fan of the left at all. But I'm one of these kind of people. I see the hypocrisy on both sides.
I do too.
And we're willing to call it out. It doesn't matter if it comes from the right or from the left. And most of the people in the churches are on the quote unquote political right. And so they have all these big mega pastors out there like John Hagee and and
Joel
all these all these people out there pushing these ideas. And I'm telling you, when these preachers speak, government listens. These are preachers in very high places.
It's because they got money.
Oh, that's right. Well, they have boatloads of money because they're 501c3, number one. Number two, they kiss the government's rear end. They did it over COVID, and they're doing it now. And I guarantee you, here's what I was talking to one of the guys we carry on our station today. We have some guys that we carry during the day that are preachers that don't buy into this stuff. And I was talking to a gentleman out of South Carolina that we carry. His name is Tim Brown. I told Tim, Tim, here's my thing. I said, my problem with this is, I said, what this is going to cause, I said, you got people out there who claim to be of the Christian faith that are out there claiming that they don't want to see a falling away from the faith. And I told him, I said, Tim, if I was not a person who was even as well grounded as I am, in other words, if I had not been exposed to Christianity as long as I have, I would have been very, very...
St. Mattress would be your church, right?
St. Mattress would have been my church. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And Sister Pillow would have been the preacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so the point being is that this could cause people to fall away from the faith because, these are the people that are out there pushing, well, Jesus is going to come soon. He's going to return any minute and all this kind of stuff.
Never mind, they misplaced all that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is that they keep saying that and nothing ever happens. So how long would it be eventually before people would say, well, if that was a lie, what else in the scriptures is a lie? Because most people don't do serious Bible study. And so they just believe, they start believing the same thing that's preached by the churches until they discover that they're lied to, and then they eventually just fall away and they don't want nothing to do with it. And, to really dig deep into this stuff, you have to, you can't just look on the surface. I mean, there are certain key things key indicators, proving that half the stuff these people are teaching are absolutely false, and which, if we had 2 hours, I could go into some of it, but we're already through the first hour. So, but I'll just say that this is something you don't want to take lightly with this eschatology of people believing in all this Israel being the biblical Israel of today, and that we need to go in there and defend Israel at all costs because why?
I get so sick of hearing them say, pray for the peace of Israel. We should pray for everybody's peace.
Yeah, not just Israel. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it is disturbing. And when we talk about, a lot of people talk about the rapture doctrine and all that stuff, and I'm like, I am not a biblical scholar by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know enough about it that never has it said in there that man would be able to influence the outcome by doing the things that we're doing now.
Right.
Nowhere in there that I remember that's saying that, oh yeah, you guys can tinker around, screw around all you want, and then that'll make me make up my mind sooner.
Yeah,
because you guys are toying with
you're right.
other people's lives. So yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Well, here's another interesting thought
right.
too, where these people in the churches are so full of it when it comes to this stuff. Now, what I'm about to say is in no way meant to be a slap at Jewish people, because there's a lot of good Jewish people out there. There are Jewish people. There's no one class of people. This is where I get aggravated.
None of us are any good, according to God. But
what I'm trying to point out is this: there are problems in every part of society. There are good people. I mean, it's just like over in Palestine. There are I just played an interview that Pastor Chuck Baldwin out of Montana did with had a gentleman by the name of Rick Wiles, who's another pastor, had him on, and I played that last week because I wanted people to hear the other side of this story that's not being heard in the media. Now, one thing about both those guys, they've been over there. None of us have been over there. All we get is what we hear from the media. But Chuck was saying that when he was over there, he said that the churches that he went to over in Palestine, he said those Palestinians that he worked with over there, he said those Palestinians were better Christians than most Christians here in the United States. He said those people took their faith very seriously. He said that's the stuff you're not hearing over here in the United States. But see, according to too many Christians over here in the United States, Palestinians are just animals and they need to be blown off the face of the earth. Well, first of all, how many people in our own government today that hates our guts today wants to lay all the blame at the feet of white people?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's what they're implying, is that all white people are the same, right? Well, that's not true any more than all Palestinians are the same, any more than all Israelis are the same. I can guarantee you there are Israelis over there that don't agree with what that government's doing over there, too. And this is where problems start, because when you start labeling a whole class of people as animals or something like that, is what we're seeing. And what makes it worse with the churches is, if you read in Scripture, Christ is supposed to be the Prince of Peace. He's not supposed to be
a warrior.
A warrior everywhere. I mean, the only time he got upset was when he rebuked the people of his day for the stuff that they were doing that was against the laws of God. I mean, like, for example, when he went into it went in the temple where the money changers and the tax collectors were assembled, and he ran them out of the temple.
Yep.
Because
cracked a whip.
Yeah, he didn't want it to be a den of thieves, and so he ran them out of the temple. Well, that's a different story than just going around recklessly declaring war on everybody and calling everybody animals and stuff like that. I mean, but see, this is where we get in trouble, and this is why I say it doesn't matter what you believe as far as your religious beliefs or whatever. These people that have the power to stir up these wars, thanks to the government, too many in the government paying attention to them, will affect you. It will. It'll come back and bite you one way or the other. I mean, whether it's blowback here in the United States or terrorist attacks, which I hope we never see. But there's a lot of people who are saying that if this war overseas escalates and widens, several things could happen. Number one, we could have a major disruption of oil over here in the United States because, once again, something else we're not supposed to be doing, but we're doing it. We're getting all of our oil from over in the Middle East, so we're right for the taking. Most of our oil comes from over there, so what a better way to make the price of oil artificially high than to go in there and start blowing away all the oil wells and stuff over there in these wars, and then all of a sudden the spigot gets shut off, and all of a sudden oil becomes extremely scarce.
Point, the commies in D.C. really smart.
Well, see, that's what I say. And then the other thing that's interesting is you have the churches out there, and again, no slap at Jewish people. They're good Jewish people and bad Jewish people, just like there's good and bad in everybody. But you have the churches out there who claim to be on the side of the Jewish people, and yet don't allow the Jewish people. Do they not believe that the Messiah has even come yet? And yet the churches do, and I'm thinking, they claim they do, but yet they're, it's just strange. They're the bed partners that they line themselves with. It just doesn't make any sense. But see, most of these are mainstream people who don't even take the time. They just hear what their preachers say and they run with it. And my preacher's special. He's holy, and I believe whatever he says.
They run around with their Schofield Bibles and say, "Oh, I got a tiger by the tail."
Yeah, that's an interesting history. We don't have time to go into it here, but C.I. Schofield,
David Lutzweiler did a talk on C.I. Schofield and his history, fact that he was in jail.
Yeah, I need to find that clip. Yeah,
you need to find that whole video. Yeah.
Yeah, I should send that out in an email because that's a complete history of the. See, C.I. Schofield, what a lot of people don't know, most of the churches use what's called the Schofield Bible. C.I. Schofield was mentored in the same organization as Bill Clinton was mentored in later, and that's
he's a Rhodes Scholar.
Rhodes Scholar.
Even and a Mason, I understand.
Yeah. So I mean, he also left his wife and kids back in the days when there was no safety net.
Yeah.
To help the family after he left. I mean, this guy was a real trip, and yet the Christians all look up to him.
He's a fraudster from way back.
Yeah.
Well, Go ahead. I was going to say, I've got another good Ron Paul clip, about 3 minutes long. This is from a speech in 2009. When you guys are ready for it, I'll play it.
Yeah, go ahead and play it.
Just go ahead and play it.
Go ahead.
This is the what if speech from 2009. Some of you guys might recognize this. But what Sam was talking about here lately about, Christianity is supposed to be the religion of peace. He kind of he makes mention of that here towards the end. Let's pull this up.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous? What if propping up repressive regimes in the Middle East endangers both the United States and Israel? What if occupying countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and bombing Pakistan is directly related to the hatred directed toward us? What if someday it dawns on us that losing over 5,000 American military personnel in the Middle East since 9/11 is not a fair trade-off for the loss of nearly 3,000 American citizens, no matter how many Iraqi, Pakistani, and Afghan people are killed or displaced? What if we finally decide that torture, even if called enhanced interrogation technique, is self-destructive and produces no useful information, and that contracting it out to a third world nation is just as evil? What if it is finally realized that war and military spending is always destructive to the economy? What if all wartime spending is paid for through the deceitful and evil process of inflating and borrowing? What if we finally see that wartime conditions always undermine personal liberty? What if conservatives who preach small government wake up and realize that our interventionist foreign policy provides the greatest incentive to expand the government? What if conservatives understood once again that their only logical position is military intervention and managing an empire throughout the world? What if the American people woke up and understood that the official reasons for going to war are almost always based on lies and promoted by war propaganda in order to serve special interests? What if we as a nation came to realize that the quest for empire eventually destroys all great nations? What if Obama has no intention of leaving Iraq? What if a military draft is being planned for the wars that will spread if our foreign policy is not changed? What if the American people learn the truth, that our foreign policy has nothing to do with national security, that it never changes from one administration to the next? What if war and preparation for war is a racket serving the special interests? What if President Obama is completely wrong about Afghanistan and it turns out worse than Iraq and Vietnam put together? What if Christianity actually teaches peace and not preventive wars of aggression? What if diplomacy is found to be superior to bombs and bribes in protecting America? What happens if my concerns are completely unfounded? Nothing. But what happens if my concerns are justified and ignored? Nothing good. And I yield back.
Another great speech from Ron Paul.
Yeah, we couldn't have said it better ourselves.
He makes the case. I mean, he really does. He makes the case. This is exactly what I've been saying and what Trish and I have been talking about here tonight, and that is the fact that that this is exactly what would happen, and that is that blowback. I mean, he's been talking about it. We've been talking about it here. The other thing that is aggravating about all of this is the fact that he spoke to a group of supposed Republicans and Christian people in South Carolina and was talking about, in one of his speeches, returning to the Golden Rule. Golden Rule meaning don't do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What a concept. He was booed by Christians for saying that in South Carolina. This is why I have no respect.
This is how dumb they are.
Yeah, this is why I have no respect for the church in this country. Doesn't mean that I don't believe in the teachings of Scripture, but I sure don't believe in the washed over church version that I keep hearing all the time. And so
no, they make a mockery of everything.
Oh, they do. And if it ever happens that Christians are killed in this country by terrorists or whatever in this country, which I don't want to see that happen to anybody, but I'm just saying if that ever winds up happening, part of it will be because of this escalation and this tyrannical warmongering teaching that they're getting in the churches. In other words, don't go preaching to everybody else in other countries how things are supposed to go if you're not willing to reap the consequences.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we're about an hour and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to end it here. But any last parting words you'd like to leave us with before we end the show?
Not really a whole lot. Just if you would like what you heard tonight and you want to hear more, come on over and listen to Off the Cuff Radio every Sunday night.
Not that we're any better.
No, we just have more of everything that you're hearing here.
Right.
We're, in fact, all of us here, we're all doing our thing. John has a stream here. I'm doing, what I'm doing over there, and occasionally even John will come over there and lift the roof off the house over there. And but the main point that I want to get across is that a lot of times we'll dig into these things. I may have some more clips even this week and compared to the stuff. Last week we played that first clip I talked about with Chuck Baldwin, and then after that we went into a piece called All Wars Are Bankers' Wars, because the international banking cartels also reap the whirlwind. And we're probably going to get into, I won't spend a whole time on it, but on this Sunday night we'll probably get into part 2 about how the wars will also cause hyperinflation in this country, because it takes money to fight a war, and to fight a war, if you have to have money and the Federal Reserve is just printing it recklessly, then there's no value in it. Then eventually you get hyperinflation, and then eventually a collapsed economy. So we'll be getting into more of that stuff on Sunday night show. And who knows, maybe even a guest or two. I still don't know. Half the time I never know about that show until it comes. So anyway, there you go.
All right, well, guys, again, thanks so much for coming on with me. I really appreciate it. And, again, I got to thank you guys for giving me a slot on the station for, I don't know how many years. Well, I've been at this 4 years now, and then plus the first show that I did, you guys have always had a slot for me, and I greatly appreciate it. And, yeah, folks, please go check out MOLibertyRadio.us, especially on Sunday nights from 6 to 9 p.m. Central Time, because, let's get them some traffic. And I would ask also, if you have a comment, call in the show. Sam always opens up the phone lines. There's a way to get into Team Talk on the link on their site, MOLibertyRadio.us. But, yeah, I know I would like it, and I know Sam would really like it. We get some different people calling in with their thoughts.
Absolutely.
And comments on, whatever subject they're touching on that night. That would be great. But, again, thanks to both of you guys. I'm going to go ahead and, cut out a
You're going to do
talk.
something. You just don't know what.
I'm going to hit a button, and things are going to change. That's what's going to happen.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm going to quit out of Team Talk here, but thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you coming on and giving your input on this. Absolutely.
You bet.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Have
you bet.
A great
Take
weekend.
care.
You too.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, folks, that was Sam and Trish Britton from Missouri Liberty Radio. Again, you can find them at MOLibertyRadio.us. They 3 hours every Sunday night. Well, almost every Sunday night. Sam takes a break once in a while because We all need a break. But, great content over there, and you're always going to learn something from Sam and Trish. They really scour the internet. They do a lot of research and really dig into things before bringing them on the show. They don't just get on there and blow a bunch of hot air and be like, oh, we nailed it again this week. That is not what you're going to hear from Sam and Trish's show. So with that being said, folks, again, I'm going to have Paul Berry on with me next Friday. He is running for Lieutenant Governor. Tom Martz, our good friend Tom Martz, is already, he's been on with Tom down in the radio in Springfield, and I talked to Tom on the phone on Wednesday afternoon. And this guy's a hoot, but I think he really gets it and understands what his role is supposed to be, what the government's role is supposed to be. And I think you're all going to enjoy what you hear from him next week. So that's coming up next week. Paul Berry. I am going to be trying to find more guests as the weeks roll along. But that being said, thanks so much, everybody. And we'll see you right here next week on the Missouri Liberty Report.
Want more freedom? It starts with you. Join us next week on the Missouri Liberty Report and find out how you can get involved to take back your state.
All right, thanks, guys and gals, for being on here with me. Voodoo Queen, Warrior Class 3, Andy Maidman. If I don't know if he's still in here or not, but Andy ran for U.S. Congress here back in 2020. I actually had him on the show. Really good guy. Really enjoyed talking to him. John Doe, Wilderness Gal, Gary Ride, Tom Martz was in here. I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anybody, but that looks like it tonight. Yeah, thanks everybody. Again, appreciate you guys coming in, and I love just watching you guys talk back and forth to each other in the live chat. It's great. Andy, it's good to see you in here, brother. I'm glad to see you're in here, joining along, and I'm glad that you're kind of watching the show sometimes. I appreciate that, and hope you're doing well. I haven't talked to you in a while since your campaign. I see you on Twitter or X or whatever it is. You always got some good commentary on there, so it's good to see you in the live chat tonight, brother. But anyway, folks, that's going to do it for this week. Gary, I'm really looking forward to your meet and greet that Representative Holly Jones is putting on Sunday there in Eureka. I'm looking forward to seeing you there and hanging out with you. I don't know. I love all the people in the Missouri Freedom Initiative organization, but Gary and I just seem to really mesh well together, and yeah, and we really have a good time. Oh, by the way, update people. I still have our last dog Luna in the down here in the screen, but some really cool news, right? So my wife got tagged in a Facebook post, and there was a woman that had two pugs, a fawn and a black one, and she was looking to rehome them. So we lost Luna, but we gained Sissy and Susie. So now we have, instead of one pug, we have two pugs. So now we have we have two little wrinkly faced dogs running around, and they're getting acclimated to the house. But they're very loving. They're very clingy dogs. They really like to be around somebody, and they're just great all around lap dogs. So yeah, they're still getting kind of used to the environment, because we switched it up. But yeah, now we've got two pugs at home, along with my German Shepherd, and it's cool. I'm happy we found them, and it kind of filled a little bit of that hole that Luna left behind. And nothing can replace her, because she was just such a unique and great dog. But yeah, now we've got two pugs, Sissy and Susie, and hopefully they work out well. Again, they're still getting used to the house. It'll take them a few weeks to get into routine with us, but they seem to be really good dogs, and they're really really like to cuddle. But one of them is a very loud snorer. And I mean human loud snorer. The dog's, it's hilarious. Freaking hilarious. But anyway, yeah, thanks everybody for the kind words. And again, great to see everybody in here. And not a new face, but kind of a new face. Yeah, and Wilderness Gal, I did get a laugh from that earlier. But Andy, it's great to see you in here joining along. I really appreciate you being in here. And everybody on Rumble as well. Thanks to you all for joining in and viewing as well. I appreciate you. I don't really talk enough about the Rumble channel, but it is working out rather well over there, and I seem to be getting about the same, if sometimes not more views on Rumble than YouTube. Now, that could be YouTube fiddling with numbers. Who knows? But appreciate you all on Rumble as well as the YouTube channel. So, with that being said, everybody, have a great weekend. Gary, I can't wait to see you on Sunday. I'll be there a little early to help set up if I can. And I'm really looking forward to that event. And you know, all that. Yeah, John Doe says, I still say there's only 2 breeds of dogs, original mountain curs and all the lesser breeds. Hey, we all got our opinion on dogs. I am just kind of a dog person. There's 2 breeds that I just don't care for because they yap so much. Chihuahuas and Pomeranians. I have no use for those. I don't have any use for dogs that just yap constantly. But other than that, I mean, hey, dogs are great. They're just, I'm a dog guy, not really a cat person. Cats are okay, but dogs are just fun stuff. But anyway, folks, thanks so much. We'll see you next week right here on the Missouri Liberty Report.